Good morning everyone, and welcome to the final day of Shift In 2020. The first 2 days were filled with interesting keynotes, masterclasses, and discussions on how we can incorporate innovation in sustainability. Today, we've got a lot of interesting sessions still lined up for you, so please register to them if you haven't done so yet. For our first session today, we welcome Edgar Barroso, who will give an online presentation on the topic of transdisciplinary innovation, a path to sustainable development. Mr. Barroso is currently professor and director of the Laboratory of Entrepreneurship and Transformation Tec de Monterrey in Mexico. He was recently appointed Special Advisor to the Executive Committee in Futures and New Learning Trends for the Thales Holding. He did his PhD at Harvard University. He is a member of the inaugural Society of Harvard Horizon Scholars and member of the Harvard Graduate School of Arts and Science Council. The United Nations have invited him as an international consultant, a member of the expert groups for technological change exponential, artificial intelligence, automation, and its policy implications to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So much on the background and expertise of Mr. Barroso. Now it's time to discuss how current changes are bringing profound personal and social transitions into new ecologies for relationships and interactions. As a reminder, please utilize the question function within your GoToWebinar dashboard, as all attendees are muted for this session. We will make sure to deliver your questions towards the guest speaker. Once again, welcome Mr. Barroso. The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much. That was an amazing introduction. Thank you very much. That was really, really great. Just wanted to thank everybody for the invitation. I have a very strange presentation for you guys. I was thinking I only have 35 minutes, so I'm going to try to use them to make one single point, which is how transdisciplinary life looks like. When we talk about transdisciplinarity or interdisciplinarity, it's mostly a debate. It's an academic debate where you are trying to understand how all of these work. But today I thought I would we'll try to make this very conversational, very spontaneous, and I'm just going to go through a lot of projects and how transdisciplinary innovation looks like in real life, like what are the projects that we're working on and what is strange about them. So I guess you're looking at my presentation now, and I would start by saying that we are living a very strange moment in our lives. I'm 43 years old. I have never seen anything like this in my life. I've asked a lot of people that have been around for longer than me, and this is really, really a unique moment. And at the same time, crisis has opened so much more opportunities for innovation. This is crises are like gates that are opening and closing, and I think this one is one of the biggest that I have seen. This is the moment for ideas. This is the moment where we have to rethink education. This is the moment where we have to rethink the economy. We have to rethink how are we going to make a more sustainable planet and more sustainable economy. This is an amazing moment at the same time as sad and tragic as it is. So of course I have to bring all my solidarity to all of you and everybody that has lost a family member or are living this pandemic in this way. But at the same time, this is where entrepreneurship comes into hand, and this is exactly what entrepreneurs are needed in a country or in a space. So let me tell you really fast what my life has been going on in the last years. I'm from Guanajuato, which is a state in Mexico. And that what is really weird about my trajectory is that I started in music. As you can see, I'm a professional trained musician. I study classical music. I was a cellist for a while. And then I jumped into digital art. That's where I started to program a little bit. I started to be in contact with algorithms. And my first job was to train on algorithms in music emotions. How can an algorithm detect if a song is sad or happy, or you can dance with it, and so on. And then I went to Harvard to do my PhD between technology, to study the relationship between technology and music. But once I was there, I was, exposed to so many other things. I took classes in the government department, in the business school. I took classes in physics, or I was just auditing them, like you do in Coursera right now. But at that time, Coursera didn't exist. So. And all of that, at the end of the PhD, I came to live in Switzerland. I actually live in Zurich, as strange as it is. And this is the first part of transdisciplinary life, is that whenever somebody asks my wife, what do I do for a living? My wife has no idea, because it's very hard to explain that I'm Mexican, I live in Switzerland, but I still work in Mexico, and I do this and that. It's very strange to answer the question, what do you do for a living, when you are really embedded in this idea of transdisciplinarity, which I think is very powerful, and especially powerful for sustainability. Sustainability is such a complex matter. It's not going to be solved by a disciplinary approach, and that is for sure. We need to look at this problem as a very complex, with very different approaches, and that therefore collaboration will be key to do that. And now I live in Zurich. I've been living here for 8 years, working in Mexico, but living here. Very happy, very grateful to Switzerland. I have one kid, and another one is coming, actually. This is my spaceship. This is how I work. We were just commenting that yesterday I had my first 2,000 people talk in a virtual world for a company in Mexico, and I think that's going to fly. That's going to be more and more the case for many companies. It's so interesting what other realities are going to be put into place. So what I'm trying to do is to explain how transdisciplinary innovation works by telling you how weird this path is. So I'm going to say, I'll talk a little bit about what my work is about as a composer, and then as a TV host, and then as a university professor. But I'm not a university professor in music. That's the weird thing. I'm a university professor in public entrepreneurship and government transformation, which is very strange. And then from that, I jump into social and public entrepreneurship, and then edtech entrepreneur and agricultural technologies, right? So these are really weird paths, and I think that's going to be the case for the future. I'm pretty sure that you guys are very multidimensional. Human beings are not just interested in one thing. Normally, we are very interested in topics that are very distant. And I think so far, they have been telling us that no, you have to, make a career in one thing, and you have to specialize in that thing, get a job, and that's it. Maybe, but I'm pretty sure that in the future that's not going to be the case, at least not for everybody. We need to also rethink how are we going to live our lives, and how we are going to be collaborating with people that have many skills that are different from yours, but you also understand the language, at least, from engineers, from sociologists, economists, artists, and so on. So it's really more a generalist education. And there's a wonderful book, it's called Range, where the author explains more or less why the world needs more generalists and less specialists. So anyway, so as a composer, I was working with a lot of directors doing music for documentaries, on films. I was also doing crazy music. I do a lot of experimental music. Actually, I know one of your professors, Elena Wong. We met at Harvard. She came to one of my concerts. Pretty crazy stuff that I was doing at that time. That was around 2012, 2010. So I'm more into the experimental avant-garde, or it's called new music now, or new complexity in music. From there, I started to be very curious. My dissertation is about how music thought could be applied to other disciplines. So I went to the world, I got an idea, and this is very interesting because I thought this is an idea, it's worth, trying. So we went to a national public television channel in Mexico. We pitched this idea of what about the relationship of music and people that are really doing really amazing stuff. And the relationship is really amazing, actually. A lot of scientists were musicians, a lot of business people were musicians as well. So music has been part of it, like an informal part of education for a lot of very smart people in the world. So we went there, we actually came here. This is, it's in Zurich, but we went also to MIT, Harvard, we went to Barcelona, to Pompeu Fabra University to interview 36 experts about how music has been affected by music in their fields, right? So from there, I started my own companies. I started a couple of social movements in Mexico, and university, Tec de Monterrey, approached me 6 years ago to become a full-time professor, even though I'm here in Switzerland. And they invited me to run a laboratory for entrepreneurship and transformation. We call it like that. This is the main campus in Monterrey. Monterrey has, it's a very interesting school. We are really big. We have almost 100,000 students. We have 30 campuses, and we just recently, I mean, yesterday or 2 days ago, we were ranked the 5th university for entrepreneurship according to the Princeton Review. Very, very close to Babson College, which is very famous for that. So it's a university that is really focused on innovation and entrepreneurship, and this is really great for me. I run this laboratory where we actually get together with entrepreneurs from all over the world to try to understand what are they doing in their countries, how can we improve problems that are very, very complex. I'm very interested in multifactorial dynamic on certain problems, and therefore they have n amount of solutions, problems that need adaptation and are tailor-made for a country. So basically what I do, we call this mecate, which is like a rope in Nahuatl, which was the language of the Aztecs. So we come together, women and men together from all over the world, from very different fields of knowledge, to try to understand, for example, topics as resilience, urban resilience, rural resilience. We are working towards, for example, corruption and transparency for the government as well. So you can see already that it's a crazy path, right, to be in this mindset of transdisciplinary innovation. So I'll give you a couple of examples. For example, after these meetings with these people, we developed actually a platform. You can check it out in this topic where we cross-reference more or less 500,000 contracts to find anomalies or something that is wrong with the contracts that they are receiving from the government. And fortunately, we've been able to detect some corruption that is very clear. I don't know if I can show you very quickly what this platform does, but basically you go here, you go and look for a company, and it looks for, I mean, I know the company because it was involved in a scandal in Mexico, and you go there and it automatically gives you a report. And you can see that this is the only legal contract that they have, and the other ones, they were just assigned directly to them without any competition or anything. And then we can know if they have problems with taxes and so on. And you can actually see each contract, the whole network of contracts that these companies made, so that you can detect where the money laundry was happening, for example. And these all happen after these meetings with wonderful people. We get together with programmers, we get together with developers, sociologists, economists, experts in corruption, and so on. We are now doing a PhD in government and public transformation, where we bring together, of course, candidates that want to really get into these big problems. Like, of course, they are based on sustainability. And then from there, I'm going to show you 3 examples of social and public entrepreneurship. One is a local one in a city in Mexico. The next one is in the state, and the last one is in a national level. So the first one, we are now doing these community schools, we call them. And what we do is that we find a house. The company that I'm running, the software company, invests in these houses that you can see they are not that great, but then we transform them into schools. And what is really interesting is that, let me show you how the life of these schools look like. So it's this is the house, the original house. And then we convert them into small schools for technology. And people go there to learn how to, for example, for older folks, we have these programs where they learn how to speak with their grandsons with Skype or Meet or whatever tool they need, up until artificial intelligence, machine learning, and things like that. So we are converting these houses into places where we talk about, for example, sustainability, how can we change our habits, but at the same time, we give a lot of tools to people, for example, to change to solar energy, to change to all other sources of food, of what you have to look into when you travel, when you buy things, to make this more sustainable. So this is a very local business that we started. And the funny thing is that it's the fastest that is growing at the moment. We have offers to replicate these houses in 3 states in Mexico. And it's also a very interesting investment because, of course, you buy the property, you buy the house, and then the price goes up and so on. So you can risk a lot more. Then this is at the state level. The state of Guanajuato, where I come from, it's around 6.5 million people live there. And they have a program where they give scholarships to some of the brightest kids there. Kids, I mean, they're going to masters and PhDs in the best schools in the world. They're going to Princeton, to Harvard, to Stanford, to MIT, and so on. And what we're doing with them is that we thought, okay, so you go to these universities, you get a great education, and then what? What happens, right? So what we're doing with the state is that we are now, I'm kind of putting together all of these kids, and we are trying to run a program, an entrepreneurship program for 1 year. So it's really great, and I'm going to be talking about time. Time is so important to me. We were discussing that yesterday. I am completely against the fast movement of entrepreneurship. Let's make it, companies in 1 day and so on. I'm completely against that. I actually think entrepreneurship is a process, and it takes a while. And when I say a while, I mean years. And if you have that mindset of building something that's really interesting in a realistic time frame, the results are actually much better, at least in my experience. And so with these guys, we're doing now a cooperative, but it's a service cooperative where all these kids, my students, I mean, not kids, professionals, These guys are studying, for example, neuroscience. They are studying sociology. They are studying math. They are studying technology and so on. And they are all spread around the world, from Australia, Europe, United States, anywhere. So at the end of the year, we actually create a company, but we create a collective company, not a lot of individual companies. And the projects that we are going to attract, they are of course way bigger than we could be doing by ourselves. This is the governor of the state watching the projects, and we're launching this cooperative in April. So we have around 20 projects or 20 companies within the cooperative, and every year we have 120 kids getting into this cooperative that is very highly educated, and it's a completely transdisciplinary hub of talent. At the national level, we're actually working with Tec de Monterrey, the education ministry, to work on a much more collective culture. Of course, for sustainability, especially in the rural areas, but in everything in the country. We need to rethink what is our future. And this goes up to a national level with the federal government being one of the main sponsors. So now from there, of course, I work in education, and I think one of the great things about education or being this, having this transdisciplinary life is that I've been teaching from preschool to primary school to secondary school to high school, in college, in master's, and in PhD. I've been teaching all the spectrum of education, and that has been amazing, because then you see the links, right, between all these levels of education. And so we started a new school in Monterrey that is basically very technology oriented. Of course, not only, but kids are going to be able to explore a lot of things very early in their lives. So digital manufacturing, life science labs, renewable energy from the beginning. So sustainability and ecology would be one of the main topics. And if you can see, there's no math, there's no language, they're actually learning through doing experiments, doing projects since they are very little. And of course, art and creativity will be very, very important class, as important as all the other topics. And this is one of the most interesting parts, that of course technology is important, but it's not everything. We're just also discussing that. Technology is just a tool, it's a great tool, but you need to know, to have the skills to be creative, to have ideas and use it. And for that, and this is so important to me for the future of education, is it's not so important what you study. What is important is what your life or your studies do to your brain. Because your brain is really what is going to figure things out, right? Like, we need to focus more on emotions. We need to focus more on skills like creativity, innovation, to be able to have confidence in yourself, to try new things. And even though they are not in your field of expertise, because there's no way, the way education is conformed at the moment in universities, there's no way you go out to the real world and that's it. You're all done, right? You have to relearn basically everything once you go out of university. This is how it works. And this is more or less how it's going to look like. We are starting to build this university since, this school, sorry, for kids, since 6 months ago. So it will be a big school, and it's very much focusing on citizenship, and we're having a special lab for emotions, for social aspects, since they are very, very little. I also work in Talysis, that's a holding that owns universities. And in this topic, my job is to basically have ideas within the holding. And they own around 50 universities in Mexico from a completely different background. And what my job is just to sit down with the board and figure out what are the next steps with these universities. And the weirdest part has been coming in the last year, and this is very related to digital agriculture. And of course, digital agriculture is absolutely necessary for sustainability because it's going to, at least that's a promise, to improve the use of resources, to understand better the ecosystems and so on. So for the last months, I've been working a lot with the Office of the United Nations, the FAO, in Chile. You know, there are two offices, Rome and Chile. And my job is to design or to help the team design how can a network of hubs, of digital hubs in all Latin America and the Caribbean could work. And this is fascinating because it's really about network theory, right? Like how are you going to build a network which is, in my case, I think the best one for the moment is a decentralized network, but it could be a distributed one in the future, I hope. And the last one is that I'm going to work in sustainable technologies, digital for sustainable development in the Caribbean. This is the last project that I'm actually going to work. This is a part of the contract. But I want to show you this because it's interesting, the qualifications, right? The qualification says you need an advanced degree, but in public administration, in political science, in economics, in information technology, international development, agriculture, environmental science, or other related fields. I don't have any of those, right? I don't have any of those, but this is like my fifth collaboration with the UN. And this is the message that I want to come across, is that in the future, I don't think the discipline or whatever you study is going to make the difference. For me, is that we need to be able somehow to switch from this kind of entrepreneurship, where there's one or two persons that are very talented and they are very successful, and then a lot of people are not, to a much more inclusive way of handling entrepreneurship and innovation. We need to understand that it's not about having individual success, because if we do that, then the economy and every opportunity in the world is going to be like this, right? We're seeing that. And we need to understand that this is the moment where humanity needs to understand, what can you bring to the table? How can we create a network of very different people, and how can we create better and more sustainable products for the future, but in a context where all disciplines, or many disciplines at least, are in a permanent conversation that reflects then into projects. And we have developed our own methodology of this, what we have learned all these years of doing crazy projects. We have many more that are crazier. And yesterday, Paulo was asking me, like, how do I find the time to do all of this? And the answer is very simple. I have a great team. And this is key. My team, I can, put my hands on the fire for them, because they are really amazing. And that's what we have to learn, all of us, including us as professors in the side of the university, is that we have to change our relationship with you guys. We're not here to teach you. Actually, I always say that I learn much more from my students than they learn from me. But we need to become partners in many respects, and in the broad sense, partners. We need to, for once, professors, we need to take accountability of our work with you, and also we need to think of our relationship not, we take a class, you do an exam, and then we say goodbye. No, we need to make relationships so that we can make entrepreneurship happen in the future. Actually, time is one of the variables that it's not considered many times in entrepreneurial programs. And I think time is the most interesting and most important variable for entrepreneurship. because you know, it's so interesting. We were theorizing of this in our university several years ago, but now we're looking at the results. And for example, we're now working with a company in the Netherlands with a student of us, you know, that went there, and now we're doing business with her. And it's amazing how, if you think not, you know, in a class, but you think about life as a interconnected part of your work, then the results might come 12 years later, 20 years later, but they will come in actual projects that are realistic and they are actually making a lot of impact. So this is what we have learned, and this is the last slide. We have learned that we need to focus on legacy. What do we want to leave to the next generation, which is completely related to sustainability. We need to think about our community, and this is serious thinking. It's not about, oh, you know, community, blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. We need to analyze who we are. We need to analyze who we want to become together, and not excluding people saying, oh, I'm just going to do this because I want to do that. And we need to look forward to include as much people as we can, so that distribution, not only of money, but also to feel that we are belonging to a community, is absolutely important. The next one is that nobody knows everything. And if you work in this way, in a transdisciplinary way, you need to be learning constantly. And we need to learn things that you have never seen before in your life. My first job at Barcelona was about teaching an algorithm. I didn't know anything about algorithms. I was trained in harmony and counterpoint, you know. Fortunately, music is very mathematical in a way, so it was not so hard to get into algorithms. But again, it was completely strange to me. And then technology, of course, technology is amazing, but it's just a tool. It's an amazing tool. It's a great tool, but it's not about the tool. It's about creativity. It's about how you use those tools. And also, it's about context. It's about data. It's about how can you analyze a problem from a very, you know, numerical approach, but also from a very qualitative approach, and of course from very empirical approaches. And the three of them makes the projects a lot more interesting, and it gives you a lot of identity, which I think it's needed to be a good entrepreneur. Is that you and your community needs to have an identity based on the context. And for me, that's key. And of course, and then finally going into the projects. And this is all inspired in music. Music considers time as one of the key elements, and not only time in general, but the velocity of time, tempo of time. And another, you know, when we have time to think about this deeply, we can talk about how time actually is one of the most important variables of success on entrepreneurship. And that's it for me. 35 minutes, right on clock.
On the dot, on the dot.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much, Edgar. That was really great. I mean, a lot of energy and thought went into this presentation, and I really love it. First of all, and I think one thing that we can take away from this particular presentation that you just gave is that you are living the transdisciplinary life, and that you are giving this forward to everybody that you meet or teach to. And I think maybe you know, together with music, obviously you started in music. I think music is probably together with food, the universal language that binds us all together, right? So different kinds of food for different kind of time, different kind of music for different kind of time. So can take anything away. That's all very good. We have some questions coming in. I've also got some written down. But do you first of all feel that maybe we are living too much at this moment into a traditional capitalism society, and that we should try to start to move away? What you mentioned at the very end, you obviously had very much the very high peaks, that we move away from a traditional capitalist society to a more sharing society. Like you are obviously able to do all these things. It's probably because you're letting these employees of you're letting them fly, you're empowering them with their skills.
Yes.
And therefore that is nurturing these skills, and therefore they can go. You're just there as a coach almost, or how would you say that? What's the way best to go forward?
A friend of mine told me that I'm just a director of the orchestra. But yes, absolutely agree. First of all, yes, we need to move from this. I'm not talking about communism at all. I'm actually talking about a new economic system, completely new. And we can do that with very simple matters. For example, in our company, we cannot, for example, I cannot earn more than twice than the person who is in the hierarchy of the structure below me. So,
Right.
so that the more we earn, the more everybody earns.
I mean, their successes are
Exactly, and that's great. I don't care about only money. Money is very important. You need money to do all these things. Cost a lot
you
of
need to
money.
eat. You're living in Zurich.
Yeah, exactly. But it's very different. So yes, the answer is absolutely a yes. I don't think capitalism is all wrong either.
Right.
So it's never black or white.
Right.
And these are the problems that I'm interested in. Try to figure out,
Well, that's
okay.
great. That's great. Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to find, I think COVID is probably, and the pandemic is having us help this restoration, if you will, maybe putting it in a bit of a faster motion than what we maybe would have thought in a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I have a question from Herlinde. Oh, I'm not going to say this one correctly. I'm apologizing for that one. Herlinde Souza Gregui. Apologies for that. You have mentioned that sustainability is a complex subject, but if we were to break it down, small steps could an educational institution take to further involve and engage its students at this very moment? And I mean, there's a lot of steps I'm sure you can mention, so try to keep it short and concise, but could you mention anything?
I'm sorry, it was, I lost you a little bit. Can you repeat the question really fast?
Okay,
I got
so
most
this
of it.
sustainability, complex
Yes.
subject.
Yes.
If we were to break it down, small steps could an educational institution take to further involve and engage its student at this very moment?
I see. Yes. Actually, that's the beauty of acknowledging that something is complex. When something you acknowledge that is complex, then it's easier to get into it. So what can universities do, at least from my perspective, is to find one topic that you're really good at, and then from there start growing to the next one. For example, if I'm interested now in digital agriculture because it's going to be much more efficient to use resources, right? Which means I'm already good at digital technology. I just need to know more about agriculture digital technology. So universities can start with one topic and from there grow to the next one because they're going to find a partner that, oh, but we need to train people to use digital technology. Okay, so then we need another thing. So it's not about one person fixing everything. It's about using the energy of several fields to attack a sustainable problem. Sustainability problems.
That's great. Yeah, of course, and there's sustainable problems, sustainability solved. So I'm sure we need all the heads together in order to do this in the best way. I also have a comment from Dr. Anna Grichting. She says, "Great talk, Edgar. Thank you very much. I agree with the new need or the need for a new economic system founded on ecology and human health and well-being, as well as regenerative systems." So maybe we have been living too long a life where we're using, and we now need to start giving back to what we've been using. So another thing is obviously what's very interesting is obviously now the change is obviously starting with the kids, the lab that you showed.
Yes.
That's something that is really cool.
Yes.
We're needing to start with them, obviously. Do you feel that maybe in the last decades that we've been teaching too much in a theoretical way? I mean, I'm not saying that my kid is going to a Montessori school, but Montessoris have a very big balance in so honing the craft of art and craft skills. Do you feel that we need to move away from the clearly theoretical part and just learning from books, but also going out into the nature, going out into grasping and being more in touch with things rather than just read a book?
You know, the obvious answer would be yes, but actually I don't think that. I think we need more theory as well.
Okay, well, yeah, well,
You know,
good.
I'm a very hands-on person, but I need theory to act. Actually, as I mentioned before, for me, nothing is black or white. You need. I'm very comfortable with uncertainty, with not knowing the answer exactly, and I think
Right.
we need to communicate to our students that it's okay to. You need theory sometimes, a lot. You
Obviously,
need
yeah,
practice a lot. So you need both, and it's a dance, right? It's not static. It's
absolutely.
actually dynamic.
So I have, looking at the time, we have time for one more question, which again comes from Dr. Grichting. She has a question regarding the inclusion of females and women. Is your approach automatically more inclusive and empowering for women? Or if not, how can you ensure the balanced involvement of women in all sectors of life, education, and development?
Yes, and this is a crucial topic. We actually did a study with a lot of female colleagues last 2 years ago to understand how can we help more women entrepreneurs. And I think it's key to try to understand us with the privileges we have as men, to understand, to educate us in all of these things that are happening in the world, and what are the differences so that we can achieve a much more balance. We need to also, in universities, have a dialogue of this all the time. I am very fortunate that in my university, we do have, my boss in my university is really pushing this topic, and it's crucial for sustainability. It's crucial. Yesterday, Anna was saying about the difference of approaches between male and female towards
Absolutely,
coronavirus,
yeah.
for example.
And
right?
it shouldn't matter, really. No.
Exactly, it's so interesting. But for example, I'll give you a quick example. In Casa Antena, in these community schools,
Right.
there are very few rules, but one of them is the director, the head of the house must be a woman.
Okay.
So that we have more women in positions of directors in technology, which is really an embarrassment of the percentage of difference between men and women.
Well, this is, I think this is a great point to end on then. I think, thank you very much once again, Edgar, for this very interesting talk. And I mean, I've got lots of more questions about the Diorama platform, about the Casa Antena, about the collaborations with the government, and but unfortunately we are running out of time, everyone, and we are having another session that will be starting at 11 o'clock Central European time. So if you guys have not yet signed up for this particular session with Heather Pace Clark, please do so now, because we'll be going live in about 15 minutes from now, which leaves me once again to thank Mr. Edgar Barroso for this talk. Very interesting indeed. And I mean, let's try to nurture everybody's talents in order to make a better society for everyone.
Exactly. Not only the best or the most talented, everybody. And one thing, if you want, you can send me the comments, and maybe I can, I don't know, send you some response.
If you have any comments, yeah, absolutely. If you guys have any comments, you still have a question that pops into your mind after that we close this particular webinar, by all means, get in touch with us, and we will make sure it will find a way to Edgar Barroso. Thank you so very much.
Guys, thank you so much for the time. Ciao.
Ciao.